One would think that having a teacher that was a vampire would result in all sorts of excitement, fascinating conversations, gruesome stories. At least that's what my younger students think. Also, when I first started teaching, I was worried that it would be a big issue. But these days, it's become normal, especially somewhere like New York, which is quite impressive progress from 100 years ago. Not that I've been around that long. I was turned at 35, and that was 20 years ago. So, while vampires have had to struggle to be accepted by humans, just like other parasapiens, the bottom line is we're into the 21st century. The most amusing comment I received was when a middle-aged student of mine told me, honestly, once you've seen one set of fangs, you've seen them all. The first day was most exciting, but it lasts about 15 minutes every semester. Then they realize I'm just a person who happens to drink blood to survive. I teach night school, to those looking to get a GED, but unable to take classes during the day. There might be another vampire here or there, but my students are mostly human. Parents who didn't finish high school, people who work during the day. Even teenagers who have to hold down full-time jobs to help keep their families fridge full, but know that a GED is important. The nice thing about this gig was that almost everyone wanted to be there. Students didn't skip class because they wanted to play hooky or let their minds drift and allow themselves to succumb to boredom. They were here for a reason, and damned if they were going to waste their valuable time. Finding a spot in the parking garage was never a hassle at this hour. The college building, not a long drive for me since it was also in Brooklyn, was built high like most everything in the city, and I was on the 6th floor. The classroom I used was shared with another math teacher, and I was lucky for it. She was wonderful, having no problem sharing space or borrowing supplies from each other. She even left the shades open at my request when she left, since the view was quite nice, letting in the extra artificial light. I passed others walking through the halls, who were also here for night school classes, among other various reasons, before reaching my room. "Hey, Miss T." "You're here early," I said to Ramon, who was leaning against the wall beside the classroom door. "Got a ride from a friend," he replied, as I unlocked the door. Flicking the lights on, I let us in, and propped the door open. The students filed in gradually, finding their seats and taking out their notebooks and textbooks. This was a pre-calculus class, so scrap paper was par for the course every lesson. We started off on a new chapter, and I was writing on the whiteboard, about half an hour into the class, when a student's cell phone went off. "Oh, geez, I'm sorry," Monica said, fumbling for it in her pocket. "That's fine, it..." Then another one went off, and another. Warily, I lowered the marker to the board's ledge, putting it down, as the students worriedly took out their phones. "Is it an alert?" "No, just texts," one of them mumbled. After a moment, there was another text alert tone, and by now, everyone had their phones out. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice trembling. My mind gave me flashbacks to 9/11, and I pushed them away. They were surprisingly silent as they typed, swiped, and scrolled on their phones, a few of them looking up to me briefly with a glazed expression. They all slowly began to look scared. Horrified, I finally took quick steps over to one of the students in the front row, looking over Marcus's shoulder. What is that?" I whispered. "No one knows," whimpered a voice behind me. I wasn't sure what I was looking at. From what I could tell, it was some sort of giant shadow. It was a creature, but there was no making out its features. The videos everyone was watching showed the recordings from far away, and a sharp, cold shiver slid down my spine as I gauged the size of it. "They're fucking kaiju," said a girl to my left, her eyes glued to the phone. "Kaiju don't walk through buildings like ghosts." "Where?" I asked. "Where are these videos?" "Everywhere," cried Marcus. He clicked back and scrolled through a search of video clips by most recent, and my heart skipped a beat at the titles. Italy, Poland, Libya, Angola, Brazil, Finland, Massachusetts. With barely a flicker of struggle, the lights in the building went out. I rushed to the window and looked outside, my scan scanning the horizon. The entire city had gone dark. A shiver of panic rose in me as I saw the flow of lights that were the Aurora Borealis. No, not Borealis. We're in goddamn New York City. What the hell is causing auroras here? "It's all the big cities," one of the women behind me spoke, choking on a sob. "On the dark side of the planet. They're killing everyone. They just walk through and..." "We've got to get out of here," stammered someone. And I heard the sounds of chairs moving as everyone got up. "Away from the cities, away from..." "We'll never make it," snapped another student. "Away from the city? In the next, 10 minutes? Don't you get where we fucking are?" "I'm not just going to sit here and die. The traffic's not even moving. I think everyone's cars are dead. What if we get underground?" Their voices overlapped and then faded from my mind, in a buzz of disconnected shock as I saw it. Everything in my mind rebelled at its size, at its slow movement. Slow to me, at least. It was coming from the north, which gave me a terrifyingly clear view. I knew that my view of its pace was deceptive, like seeing an airplane flying through the sky. We'd never make it. We'll dissolve away like everyone in those videos. Everything in my mind rebelled at watching my students die, and before I knew it, I was bolting for my purse. "I'm getting us out of here," I roared over the cacophony. The voices tapered off. "What? How?" "I'm not just a vampire, I'm a practitioner," I said, yanking my purse from the cabinet and rushing to my desk. "You're a doctor?" asked a confused voice. "I'm a fucking witch," I barked. Pulling my wand from my purse, I darted over to the board and picked up the marker I'd just put down. As I drew a large circle and pentagram on the whiteboard, I spoke. "I want eyes out that window. Figure out its pace and guess how much time we have. Whoever in here thinks they're fastest, you run down to the main office, get on the loudspeaker and say, 'Escape through room 610. Say it loud 3 times. Go, now!" I focused on the sigils I was drawing, going as fast as I could without risking a mistake, and heard rapid footsteps from 2 people sprinting from the room. There was also a shuffle of wary steps towards the window, and the sounds of whimpers and crying as some of them stared at what was incoming. "You're a witch?" Marcus asked softly, coming over to my side. "Even teachers need hobbies." "Do you know what these things are?" "I haven't a fucking clue," I told him. "The Fae don't make things that big. It doesn't work like that over there. So it's not coming from them. It's us. It's our universe. Or another, I don't know. I teach freaking pre-calc." "You're saying aliens?" "It's my best guess." Finishing the pentagram for the spell, I motioned to him sharply. "Move back." He did so, and I flicked my wand across my hand with a mutter of "Conskidisti," hissing a breath in through my teeth, as a cut, a couple inches long, sliced across it. Cutting your hand for blood was rarely used by witches because it was painful, but every minute counted here, and a cut like this was the least of my problems right now. Slapping my hand flat against the pentagram, pointing my wand at it, I spoke words I'd memorized a long time ago. Latin that flowed easily from my lips, practice making me almost fluent in the language. The words were ones I'd never expected to speak, ones I'd sworn to never use, but of course there was a reason I'd memorized them. Better to be prepared and not need it, than unprepared and up shit creek without a paddle. What? The word croaked out from Marcus when, with a firm hold on my wand, I started to bring it down through the centre of the pentagram, and a cut formed in the air, bright light tracing the path. In the back of my head, I heard a voice over the PA system, broadcasting the message I sent out. But all of my focus on my work, my eyes were locked on the tip of my wand as it carved downward, until I got to the floor. Then I took in a large breath, my chest heaving with exertion, and pointed at the slit, pulling to the right, parting it like a curtain. Inch by inch it moved until it was as wide as a doorway. Well, isn't this a surprise? The calm, curious voice came from the other side, a woman standing about 6 feet into the night of another world. Her stern gaze took in me, my wand, and my bloody hand, as the cold breeze of the otherworld brushed across my skin. The Fae that I knew as Sophia was, as Fae are, unshakable. Well, in my experience at least. I had a feeling she would be shaking at least a little very soon. I'm requesting hospitality in exchange for information, I snapped, my voice unwaveringly firm. It wasn't so much a request as an explanation of what was going to happen. I knew, so I then turned back to the students behind me. How long have we got? A handful of voices called out various guesses that left me with an estimate of 7 minutes. All right, everyone through the door, now, I shouted. What are you doing? Sophia asked curiously, cocking her head. Glancing back to her, my eyes tight and determined, I could only imagine what was going through her head. How desperate I must be to be doing this, or how insane. Miss T, go through the door or die, your choice. My gaze darted around them, showing how serious I was, and Marcus was the first one through. I stepped in after him, briefly bowing my head. My lady, I said quietly, our world is under attack. I'm attempting to save as many as I can. Seconds matter. Once the two of us were through, the others quickly followed. Sophia's expression didn't change. I felt the blood slipping down my hand, dropping to the ground, and she no doubt noticed it but didn't pay it any attention. Would you care to expand on that? She asked. Deals have been made over the years for safe harbour, but this is rather unprecedented. It was very clear what she meant by this. Because it is unprecedented. I said our world. I meant it. Genocide. Best guess is from another planet. Her face contorted, just slightly. But it was enough. Not much shocked the Fae, at least the average one, and definitely those of Sophia's level. And even if it did, they rarely showed it. And forget showing vulnerability. That was only for the most desperate situations. How many have already perished? Billions. Sophia's face turned to stone and she paused. Her gaze shifted to the doorway, which was still letting through human after human. And do you put our world at risk by opening this door? I don't believe so, but perhaps. But I am also saving your world. My actions are being taken with care. Hospitality for all who come through this door, until it is safe for us to return home. For information. I held out my bloody hand. Sophia didn't hesitate. I knew how her mind worked, and I knew she'd take the deal. She clasped my hand briefly. I flinched as she squeezed. Granted. These demons are the size of our cities. Look to be nothing but shadows, appearing all over our planet out of nowhere, possibly from space, I told her. They're targeting populated areas. I will not be the only one from Earth desperately taking shelter in this realm. Far from it. Any witch who keeps their wits. That was all she needed to hear. With a slash of her hand through the air, another door opened, and she darted through it. Letting out a long breath, I motioned with my uninjured hand and called out, Everyone move back, we're getting crowded. Just stay away from the forest. The area surrounding us was one I'd seen only once before. Sophia's home, a large stone structure, sat in the middle of a field of grass and wildflowers. About a half-mile in every direction, the area was bordered by forest, and I was smart enough to know that the border was probably more than a simple change from grass to trees. Where did she go? I turned around to see Marcus, still by my side. My heart ached for him. I knew he was only thinking of his parents right now. He lived with them not far from the school, and there was no way to know if they could get to safety. Chances were they wouldn't. Chances were everyone we knew was about to die, or already dead. Out of the corner of my eye, I had seen 2 of my students run for the room at their first opportunity. I know many would rather try to make it home and die holding their loved ones than survive without them. "To talk to the Queen," I answered. "The Queen? Which Queen?" "The Queen," I told him, my gaze deadly serious. I wouldn't say her name. Not now. Not when I might already be putting myself in her sights. There was already the chance she could come walking through the door Sophia had left open. Goosebumps prickled along my arms at the thought. Marcus, it seemed, either didn't remember enough from school or didn't want to push the topic further, because he turned away and watched as people continued to run through. "I need to watch through the window," I told him, "to know how long we have." He tensed and looked like he was trying to figure out what to say, but I simply walked past him and went back into my classroom. My classroom. Jesus. It all looked so normal. The books and papers and pencils on desks. Walking over to the window, I immediately started to shiver when I set my eyes on the monster. It was close. It was so damn close. Footsteps continued to echo down the hall, then into the classroom, and onto the grass. Those were the only sounds I could hear. Everything else, the screams, the cries, the sounds of destruction outside coming from God knows what, it all faded. The monster's steps were deceptively quiet, even as I began to feel the faint vibrations of its approach. "Eve, return to this side." I spun around and ran for the door, jumping through and stopping abruptly beside Sophia. "What happened?" She ignored me. She just stared at the door and spoke. "It is done, my queen." My eyes snapped back to the door I'd created, and it vanished. The faint sounds from the city being cut off abruptly left me breathless, weak with exhaustion. I stared, unable to move, unable to speak. My heartbeat still thundered in my chest, and it would take time for it to realize the danger had passed. "There were still people coming," Marcus whispered. "We were waiting until—" "That was the point," Sophia said, stern but quiet. "We know nothing of these demons, not even how they arrived. They dwarfed your cities, yes, and yet their essence may be capable of slipping through a doorway. We had to close them." "Close them?" "The other world has severed its connection with Earth. By the will of the Queen. It will be restored when she deems it safe." A brief silence, and then Marcus cried, "There are witches all over the planet who are probably still trying to get people out, and you just—" I whirled around and was pulled finally back to my senses at the sound of a sharp slap. Marcus stumbled back a few steps, his hand on his cheek, stunned. "Eve, teach your student respect or I will do it for you," she spoke slowly, her bright eyes staring deep into mine. I swallowed hard as she walked around me, looking to where the door had been. "We opened their world up to genocide, Marcus," I told him softly. "If you want to blame anyone, blame me. I knew what they would do." His eyes flashed angrily. "But look around at everyone we saved and realize it could all have been for nothing. It still could have been for nothing. If those monsters don't need to fit through a door, we still might have cut off the other world too late." I was ready to shut the door when it got close. There could have been someone out there who wouldn't have. Who didn't. The fire dimmed from Marcus's eyes as his expression shifted to comprehension, and he looked towards Sophia. I put a hand on his shoulder, and when he looked back to me, the tears that had been forming in his eyes had started to slip down his cheeks. I'm sorry for what you lost, for what we all just lost. But there was enough time for us to save this many people, and it was the same for anyone else who took prompt action. And none of it would have mattered if we didn't keep this realm safe. Wiping his face, Marcus didn't reply. He just folded his arms tightly and walked away. I looked at Sophia and made my way over to her. She was gently sliding her hand around the spot where the door had closed. Can you feel anything? Sophia was succinct. Coldness. Death. She lowered her hand. Just remnants, of course. The echo is fading. Nodding slowly, I looked over to the wide variety of people spread across the grass. Some speaking to each other in low murmurs, some giving comfort to others, some appearing in shock. I took another step toward her, as close as I was willing to get so I could lower my voice. They are children here, I said. I'll let them know the rules. Most are taught when they're younger, but not all, and they often don't remember. The only rule everyone on Earth knows is to avoid the Fae and to never ever visit the other world. This is a day for breaking many rules, then, Sophia murmured. My queen will authorize and arrange an area for refuge. Hospitality will be arranged. Her eyes flicked to mine, and I forced myself not to flinch. Can you estimate how long it might be until that planet is safe for your return? The creatures appeared on the dark side, I told her. I hope that means they cannot stand the light so close to our sun. That may coax them to leave once they've stayed through the day, struck the largest targets and eaten their fill, the Fae finished. I swallowed hard, pushing back nausea. Understood. But I cannot guarantee anywhere near that quick a return. It will likely be weeks to ensure the danger has passed. To open just a single door is to court danger. I know. I looked to the crowd of people. They still blaze with fear, and they despair as only orphans can, Sophia said quietly. They are human, and they will fall apart. They will wail with loss, and some will take their lives. My shoulders tensed, and I snapped my gaze back to her. She didn't look to me, just stared at them. The grass is safe, and they will bed there for the night. The forest is beyond my bounds, but rest assured, none will trespass onto my land, even now. I will distribute food and show them where they may fetch water. Sophia then turned a heavy gaze back to mine. Go, teacher. Educate your children, so they will survive my world. And I wish you a safe return to your planet, as soon as the Queen wills it. With that, she walked away, heading back into her home. Tears formed in my eyes, as I saw my students among dozens of others. Teach. I can do that.